My name is Daisy and I'm 13 years old.
And I'm Jane and I am Daisy's mum. Daisy was 8 years old when she was diagnosed and she had a bit of bone pain, didn't you? Sort of leg pain. She was complaining of her leg hurting. And I just dismissed it as growing pains because that's what you do. And I didn't even really look at her leg and I didn't even really do anything, did I, other than shove a bit of cowpole down her. We had a really lovely day. It was half term, October half term 2014, and we went to London to see the poppies. And we had a really busy day. We went around City Hall, didn't we? And we went around HMS Belfast, and it was we did loads of walking. And Daisy, that night, you really were complaining about your legs hurting, weren't you?
Yeah.
And Daddy was very good, went in and had a look and felt her leg, and he said that he thought it felt hot. So he said to me, would I please take her to the GP, which I did, and sort of said to the GP, I'm really sorry I'm wasting your time, I'm sure it's just growing pains and you'll just send us away. But he was really good, and I didn't know, but he had a skeletal specialism, and he sent us straight off to Stoke Mandeville, didn't he?
Yeah.
And we had an x-ray, and they said there was a lump there, but didn't really say very much. But then we got called in for an MRI, didn't we? And there was nobody there for this MRI. There was only us on a Saturday morning. And I think that made me panic slightly. I don't think it did you, but I think it made me panic. And then on the Monday morning we got a phone call. I was taking the kids to school and I said, don't answer the phone, haven't got time, we're going to be late for school, And it was a consultant, and she just said, your daughter's got Ewing sarcoma. And I said, well, I don't know what that is. And she said, it's bone cancer. And I seem to remember saying to her, are you absolutely certain you know what you're talking about? She's 8 years old. And I cried a lot, didn't I? And I took you to school, and I told you it was grandma, because my mother had a brain tumour at the time, and I said, it's grandma, it's fine. And obviously it wasn't fine. And we very quickly had a biopsy, and very quickly it was Ewing sarcoma, and that was it really, wasn't it? We started a very long journey in hospital. Daisy's oncologist at the time was a lady called Jenny. She was very lovely, and she told us, my husband and I, that Daisy had cancer and what would be the next steps. And I remember very distinctly, in this room there wasn't even a box of tissues. And I remember getting, the towels you wipe your hands with. I remember getting those and blowing my nose and thinking, oh God, this is awful, there isn't even a tissue in here. And I remember saying to her vividly, I said, who is going to tell Daisy? Are you going to tell her, or am I going to tell her? And she said, no, I'm going to tell her. She said, and we went out of this little room onto the ward where Daisy had just had her biopsy, and we brought you into the room, didn't we? And she told you.
But then I didn't really know, what it was exactly, and, I didn't really know that if I could die or if I could still be alive, so I wasn't really worried about it, but then I feel like I should have been more worried about it, but I feel like it was better me not being so worried because I'm here now.
Yeah. I remember just thinking, I've never heard of Ewing sarcoma, and I remember thinking to myself, I can't Google this. I remember thinking, I cannot Google what this is, because I knew that if I did, I would just find masses and masses of not good stories. And I remember coming home one day, and my husband I'd said to my husband, we are not going to Google this. We're going to look at the NHS website. We're going to talk to Macmillan. And then we eventually found out about the BCRT, and we spoke to them a lot. But I remember coming home one day, and my husband had Googled it, and he was in floods of tears, sat in the lounge. And I was not very sympathetic. I remember saying to him, I told you not to do this, and I don't want to know anything that you have found out, because I am not interested in anyone else's journey other than Daisy's.
We had like the chemotherapy, and then after that we had like zoledronic acid.
We had zoledronic acid,
Yeah.
yes.
And then painkillers galore, and
Masses of surgery.
yeah.
And we were on the Ewing's 2012 trial, and we got the American way of treating. So it's quite an intensive treatment,
Yeah.
wasn't it? So we had, our treatment started every other Tuesday, effectively, and we were either in for 6 days or 3 days. So it was pretty intense. And we were in hospital for a long time. And we had lots of issues around surgery. Daisy, where was your tumour?
It was like
Yeah. In her right tibia. So we took the skinny fibula out of her left leg and transferred that into her right leg once they'd taken the tumour out.
And I know like loads of infections, and
Yes.
and then I got like the
MRSA, we got that as
MRSA.
well. So we got MRSA, we got lots and lots of staph bugs, lots of antibiotics. We had lots of issues around metalwork because the infections wouldn't go, so we had to have metalwork out.
Yeah, there was one point where like the metal was
Oh.
just like there. You could see the screws and the metalwork and everything.
I used to have to dress Daisy's leg every other day. So every other day I would go into this wound where I'd be presented with screws, bolts, bone, everything. I'm quite squeamish, but I don't know what it is when it's your own child. You just do anything. By this stage I'd seen so many wounds, and we'd already had the MRSA thing, and I'll never forget that day when I took the dressing off and I just looked at it, and there was this gaping great hole in Daisy's leg, and there was just this stuff. I mean,
It was disgusting.
it was disgusting.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to Daisy, just stay there, just lie on the bed, I need to call the district nurses. And I called the district nurses and I said, you need to come over now. I said, this leg, this not right. I said, there's a massive hole in the side of her leg. I said, I don't know what to do. And they came over, and the nurse just looked at it and said, that's really wrong. We need to get you to the JR now. That's really not right. So yeah, we had about 18 months of antibiotics, and that brought with it its own problems with lots of vomiting and yeah.
I remember the first time I vomited, it was like I had this like cheese and onion sandwich, and then I had some mango, and I was like, and I was like, what?
And it was just awful. It just the stomach was just a mess from all the antibiotics, and we just were vomiting all the time, weren't we? And it was just hideous. And then it turned out that most of the vomiting was due to anxiety around treatment and general anaesthetics and everything. So yeah, the after effects of treatment have been
Horrible.
pretty tough, really.
Yeah.
Treatment was almost easier
Yeah.
because we knew what we were doing, didn't we?
Yeah.
We knew when we were going to hospital, when we
Yeah.
knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then when we stopped, it was like, well, what the hell is all this then?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's all orthotics, raises, because Daisy's got quite a large discrepancy in her legs now.
Yeah.
Sort of 2.5 centimetres difference in leg length, which is quite a lot. So we're now going to built up shoes. And we're having another operation to try and stop the left leg from growing, so the right leg hopefully can catch up. So to try and avoid leg lengthening surgery, really, because
that's like the worst.
we're not really feeling that, are we?
No.
So we're going to try and avoid leg lengthening surgery if we can, because Daisy doesn't react well to metalwork, and we just know that if we have to go down that route, we could end up 3 months in hospital. We're not feeling that. No. We are extremely lucky. You know, Daisy has come through it, and yes, there are hangovers from treatment, but you know, she is here, and you know, we have met lots of people along this way who haven't come through it, and we are very grateful to the NHS.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're amazing. I mean, the things they do, like, you know, Abby has osteosarcoma and Harry has an operation.
We've helped out on them.
We helped out on those. Yeah, and their resources are just amazing. I remember getting the Ewing sarcoma booklet when Daisy was diagnosed, and it just, there was nowhere else you could get that information. I mean, you can go onto the NHS website and you can look up Ewing sarcoma, but there's nothing like the resources that Zoe and the crew put together, because they are just brilliant. And the books for the children, the Abby and Harry, are fantastic, because they're just written in such a way that they can understand it all.
Yeah.
And it's also a good resource for parents as well, because it's all written in a very childlike way. It makes it so much easier to tell your child about it.
And pictures as well.
Yeah.
That's
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We like pictures.
Yeah.